Hi, I'm Emma, a senior in high school in California.
And I'm Sawyer, also a senior in high school in Washington State.
Welcome to our very first podcast, The Final Mile, with our first episode, Kids Are People Too.
So let's get into it. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Emma and I's first episode on our first ever podcast. And in today's episode, we're going to be discussing death, experiencing death as a kid and as a parent, how to approach that. So, Emma, when was the first time that you experienced death?
Well, growing up, I had a lot of really old animals.
Mhm.
So the first time I experienced it, I was probably like too young to even remember.
Yeah.
But it was never, I mean, at least my parents never really like sugarcoated anything. We'd sit with the animal and we'd just sit with them until they passed, and it was all
Yeah.
very transparent. And it was sad, but it was also kind of like nice because I remember like one of my cat, every other cat was laying in a circle around him. And it was
Oh,
just kind of like beautiful, just like
yeah.
seeing everyone like loving him till the end.
uh Nice. Do you remember what your initial reaction to that was? If you no, 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 this can't happen, or do you remember how you felt about that?
Well, being so young, I think I didn't really understand exactly what was going on. Like, my mom was crying, so, like, I knew it was sad,
Yeah.
but I didn't really, like I don't feel like I fully grasped it, which was almost
Mhm.
kind of I don't know, kind of, like, better because I was just, like, there and not, like, dwelling on it. I was kinda just, like, in the moment more.
Yeah.
So what was your first experience with death like?
Yeah, so growing up, my family had 3 cats, and 2 of them passed away when I was, a toddler, so I was pretty young, and kinda like your situation, I didn't understand, what the change was or what the impact was for me, and so my dad's a veterinarian, and hearing what happened now, so my mom tells me that my dad took the cats away to euthanize them, but, at the time, if you tried to explain that to me, it's not anything I would grasp or be able to comprehend. But more recently, I think the first time that death impacted me, that I could remember, was I think it was on 4th grade. One of my cats got killed from a coyote, and I still remember I was driving home with my dad and my brother. We were in the car, and he was just like, "Oh, I have to tell you guys something. Daisy got eaten by a coyote. There was nothing to it. That's just he went straight for it." And that's kinda just what he told us, and then I remember I was super sad and I cried for a while because that was, the first time that death kinda, affected my emotions or to, where I could understand it. So, yeah, that was my first time. And I also think, like, telling us straight exactly, what happened was probably, a healthy thing, a good thing for us because, like, at a young age especially, your mind could take you in a spiral and be like, "Oh, did she run away? Like, what happened to her?" So I think, not sugarcoating it and telling us exactly what happened kinda gave us closure and, the ability to move forward.
Mm, that's good. I've never had a traumatic experience like that, so I'm sure as a kid that was hard to deal with, but knowing what happened is better than not knowing, especially at
Yeah,
like, a
great.
young age.
Yeah. Okay, so for our next question, Emma, reflecting on how your parents, approached death with you for the first time, how do you think parents should approach it with their kids?
I think that parents should be straight up and honest with their kids as they would with any other adult, because I know growing up with me and just like all of my friends, I know it's all been very transparent. Like anytime someone's animal has died or anyone has died, just helps for the kids to understand death, I feel like. And in a sense, I know with me, it almost made me feel more mature when I was little, which is a good feeling when you're
Yeah,
a little kid. Like you want to feel
right.
grown up. And
Uh-huh.
so your parents letting you get to feel those emotions at that age, I feel like is good for.
And adding on to that, did your parents ever make you feel judged for how you reacted or how you felt, or maybe from your friends too?
No, they never did. Growing up, I was always like the person that my friends would talk to when their animal died. So
Mhm.
just because I had so much experience with animal death, which made me feel really good. But it also gets to the point where I feel like parents should be honest, but also sensitive because I know one time my parents told me that our cat died when we were in the middle of a restaurant.
Oh,
And I obviously cried, and I was like,
uh,
you knew I was going to cry
right
and we
off
were in a
the bat, yeah.
restaurant. So it's kind
Uh-huh.
of, you should definitely be honest, but also sensitive
Right.
because kids are very sensitive.
Be aware. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Sawyer, what are some main points that you think parents should take away when talking to their kids about death?
Good question. Yeah. Three main points that parents should focus on are so to not judge their kids on how they react if their kids are experiencing denial and feelings and emotions that their kids may be going through. So I can speak a little bit on the denial part for myself. My dog, who lived to be close to 16, he passed away like a month and a half ago. And he was like our family dog since I was in like third grade. He was my step family's dog, and they moved here, and I like grew to love him, and I became really attached to him, and he was my dog. So they grew up with him for a little bit longer than me, at least my step siblings. And so when it came time to put him down, so my dad and stepmom euthanized him at home. And when it came time to put him down, really painful for me. And it was like really sad. And that was like the first time like I've seen an animal being put down like in front of me, and especially at my own house. So that was a very different experience. And so we were at home, and it was me, my stepbrother, my dad, and stepmom all at home. And we were all spending time with them, like in the living room that night. And then, like, after a while, they're like, okay, guys, like, we gotta do this sooner rather than later. And they had to take them back to the clinic. And after a while, my stepbrother was like, okay, I think I'm ready. And I didn't really speak up, but like inside I was like, no, no, like I can't be ready for this. Like I could never be ready. So like I kind of just had to go with it. But like inside I was like, no, 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 like this doesn't feel right. And then just like sitting there with him, like bawling my eyes out, like while he was being euthanized, like I was still just like, no, 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 this doesn't feel right. Yeah, I'd say I experienced some denial with that.
That must have been tough. How did
Yeah.
your parents deal with?
Well, I guess we all kind of like he was getting to be pretty old, so we all kind of saw it coming. And
Mhm.
I think them especially, like, because they were always home with them, and so they saw him kind of his life kind of decline. So like they knew it was about time. So I think they were kind of ready for it more than I was, but I think it was still very emotional inside.
Yeah.
Okay, so another thing that we want to leave all the parents with is to remember that your kids are people too. And so the reason we named this episode after that phrase is just because we think it's really important for parents to talk to their kids how they would want to be approached about death. So straightforward. And it's better for your kids to find out the truth from you rather than from their friends at school or other parents or other resources, whatever, whoever. And it's also better for them to understand and grasp the concept sooner rather than when they grow up and find out that just everything that their parents said to them was like sugar coated or potentially a lie. So yeah, do you have anything to add, Emma?
Yeah, just if there's kids listening right now, just know that if you have questions, you should ask your parent because they might not be bringing it up to you because they might not know that you're ready to hear it.
Yeah.
So just ask your parent uh, to get honest answers.
Yeah. Good. Thank you. Okay, so something we're gonna do in each of our episodes is the last thing we're gonna leave you all with something to think about or a question to discuss. And so we have a question for y'all today. And so, Emma, what is our question?
Our question today is for kids to ask their parents or parents to ask their kids. What is something that you learned from today's episode?
Yeah, great.
Thank you guys for tuning in. If you have any questions, just ask us, or if you have any feedback, we'd love to hear it.
Yep. And that's all we have for you today. So thank you so much for tuning in to our very first episode on our very first podcast. And make sure you tune in to next time's episode. Thank you.